Dear Chosen One, you didn't imagine it. Something is shifting. You can feel the pressure in the air, the subtle changes in people's behavior, the unexpected emotions surfacing from nowhere. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. What's been hidden is about to be revealed. And the truth is, your breakthrough is no longer a quiet hope. It's a divine certainty. God didn't forget what He promised. He was only waiting for the appointed hour. And now, that hour has arrived. The breakthroughs assigned to you are not just coming. They are about to hit the world around you full on. Not quietly, not politely, but with the force of destiny. And no one will be able to look away. You see, the unsettling part isn't what's happening to you. It's what's happening around you because of you. People are shifting. Energies are moving. Old connections are trying to return, while others are distancing themselves without explanation. But don't be confused. What you're feeling is the atmosphere trembling in response to your spiritual unlocking. What's about to be released in your life is so aligned, so undeniable, that even those who mocked you will feel the ground shake when it lands. They can't wait, not because they're cheering for you, but because their spirits already know that heaven is about to make an announcement through your life, and it will echo loudly. If your soul already knows that this message is for you, write in the comments, "My time has come." Let it be a declaration, a spiritual agreement, because this video isn't just a word, it's a confirmation. And if you're ready to walk through that divine door that no one can shut, leave your like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. The moment you've been waiting for isn't on its way, it's here. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why it had to be you, and why they won't be able to ignore what's coming. You've waited quietly, even when the silence became unbearable. You've carried promises that no one else could see, and dreams that felt too sacred to speak aloud. There were days when you questioned everything, not because you lacked faith, but because you were human. And yet, you didn't abandon your calling. Like David, anointed long before he ever saw the throne, you were marked in a field where no one was watching. You were chosen in private, tested in secret, and refined in seasons where it looked like nothing was happening. But something was happening, and heaven never stopped watching. They underestimated you because you didn't look the part, because you stayed humble, because you didn't fight back when they disrespected you. They mistook your stillness for weakness, your silence for confusion, and your patience for passivity. But in truth, you were waiting on God. And what they didn't realize is that those who wait on the Lord renew their strength in ways the world can't explain. Every time you bowed your head and cried in private, the heavens recorded it. And the breakthrough you're stepping into now is justice catching up with your faith. The wilderness didn't break you, it prepared you. Like Joseph in the prison, you were being groomed for something you couldn't yet see. You thought the delays meant denial, but they were disguise. Heaven was hiding you on purpose, not because you weren't worthy, but because the weight of your calling required deep roots. And now, just like Joseph, you're being summoned, not gradually, but suddenly. When the time comes, God doesn't need a build-up. He just says, "Now." And the doors that refused to open before will have no choice but to swing wide. During your silence, others talked. Some mocked, others copied. A few tried to use your kindness, your energy, your anointing, without carrying the cost. But you didn't retaliate. You observed. You discerned. And that's what preserved you. Because had you fought the wrong battle, you might have forfeited the right breakthrough. God was never preparing you for a platform of revenge, but of restoration. And now that it's time, the same ones who laughed at your lack will watch heaven crown your endurance. They ran ahead, took shortcuts, claimed mantles that weren't theirs. But now, the tables are turning, and the ones who sought recognition without preparation are being exposed, not by you, but by the unfolding of your promise. You didn't need to prove anything, because what is of God never needs to be forced. And what is truly yours doesn't require validation from those who never saw your worth in the first place. What's coming for you will be so clear, so profound, that the people who misjudged you won't even know how to respond. The spiritual atmosphere around you is shifting, and you can feel it. Random thoughts, intense dreams, closed doors suddenly reopening, people you forgot reaching out. These are not coincidences, they're confirmations. The earth responds when heaven moves. And right now, your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered. Your spirit is already being recognized where your feet haven't stepped yet. That's why the tension is rising. The breakthrough isn't coming quietly. It's arriving like prophecy fulfilled. And even those who denied it will feel it hit. They thought the blessing would pass you by, that the delay meant denial. But the joke is on them, because God never forgets what He ordains. And when He opens a door, He doesn't need permission from your critics. In fact, sometimes He waits until the room is full of them, so that when the door opens, they're all there to witness it. Just like in Revelation 3:8, He placed before you an open door that no man can shut. And now it's swinging open, not behind the scenes, but in front of them all. They feel it, even if they don't admit it. The ones who disrespected you, doubted you, talked behind your back, they're unsettled now. They can't explain why they're watching you more closely, why their spirit flinches when they hear your name, why there's an unease they can't shake. But you know why. It's because your breakthrough is not just near, it's in motion, and their spirit senses that what they mocked is about to manifest. The tables are turning, and they feel it in their bones. They come close again, not out of love, but because they want to measure how close you are to what they once tried to block. Some try to reattach themselves, hoping to gain access to the blessing. Others act like they've always supported you, pretending they never threw shade when you were invisible. But God saw it all. And this time, your elevation will not be shared with those who dishonored your preparation. This breakthrough is guarded, and entry is by divine appointment only. Your energy is becoming too bright for them to hide their true intentions. You walk into rooms now, and the atmosphere tightens. Eyes shift, conversations change. That's not ego, that's presence. That's spiritual authority reclaiming space. When you carry the evidence of a process survived, even silent enemies start to squirm. You don't have to speak a word. Your journey speaks for itself, and your silence is louder than their noise. You didn't ask for a spotlight. You were content in the background. But the divine doesn't ask for your permission. When it's your time, it's your time. And now, heaven is pushing you to the front, not to prove your worth, but to fulfill your role. And that front row seat comes with eyes watching. Eyes that once looked down on you, now can't look away. They can't stop you, but they can't ignore you either. That's divine elevation. You were always set apart, but now it's undeniable. The separation isn't personal, it's spiritual. You're walking in a frequency that confronts their compromise. Your obedience exposes their shortcuts. Your consistency confronts their performance, and it's making them uncomfortable. But that discomfort is part of their lesson, because sometimes God teaches others by watching you rise. The resistance isn't random. The tension isn't without cause. It's all confirmation. When breakthrough is near, opposition stirs. Spirits get agitated. Insecurities rise. The enemy throws distractions, delays, and even false blessings to shake your focus. But stay grounded, because what's ahead is not just for you, it's through you. Your breakthrough carries a ripple effect. It's a spiritual turning point for more than just your story. This is the last test before the door opens. Will you shrink back to keep others comfortable? Or will you walk through it, even if it makes some people disappear? This moment isn't about applause. It's about alignment, and real alignment requires letting go of what no longer fits. Even if you love them, even if they helped you once, the next season requires clean hands and clear vision, and you're ready for both. You've survived what others didn't even know you were going through. The emotional betrayals, the spiritual warfare in silence, the seasons where you showed up for others with nothing left inside yourself. That wasn't just survival. It was sacred preparation. God was sharpening your discernment, deepening your roots, and cleansing your vision. Every tear you cried, every lonely night you endured, every moment of silence that made you feel abandoned, it was heaven's classroom. And now, the lesson is complete. The breakthrough you're stepping into is not random. It's the visible harvest of invisible obedience. And this is the moment where you begin to understand why it had to take this long. You weren't just being protected. You were being positioned for something no one else could carry the way you can. While others were chasing exposure, you were cultivating depth. While they wanted stages, you were building stamina. While they played the part, you lived the truth. And heaven took note of all of it. There's a kind of authority that can't be faked, and that's the kind you now carry. You didn't demand it, you earned it through surrender. You walked when it was hard, you stayed when it was lonely, and you kept your heart pure, even when your spirit was tired. That's why this breakthrough will feel different. It's not the arrival of something new. It's the recognition of everything that's been growing inside you for years. The world is just now catching up with what God already finished in you long ago. They won't understand why they feel so drawn to you now, why your presence feels heavier, why your words pierce deeper, why your silence feels louder. But it's not personal, it's spiritual. You're no longer operating from the same realm. The version of you that tolerated certain rooms, conversations, or energies doesn't exist anymore. And what people are sensing is the evidence of that shift. They're encountering someone who has crossed over spiritually, someone who has wrestled with God and survived. Just like Jacob after Peniel, you walk with a limp now, but you also walk with a blessing, a marked one, a shifted one, and that spiritual mark can't be ignored. This is where the spiritual tables turn. The ones who spoke against you will have to speak about you. The ones who left you behind will now struggle to keep up. But here's the truth. Not everyone gets access just because they finally see your value. God's elevation isn't a group invitation. It's a divine selection. And now, your access is restricted, not out of arrogance, but out of preservation. This breakthrough isn't just about favor. It's about assignment. And God will not allow distractions to follow you into a destiny that cost you so much to reach. Some people will have to watch from a distance, not because you cut them off, but because heaven cut the cord. Your rise will not be subtle. It was never meant to be. Because this is not just about your healing. It's about their awakening. God is using your life to break illusions, expose hidden intentions, and correct wrong narratives. That's why it will hit them full on. They won't be able to spiritualize it away or pretend they didn't see it. The same way Joseph stood before the very brothers who betrayed him, not in bitterness, but in divine authority. You, too, will be seen in full light, not for revenge, but for redemption. Because your story was never about proving people wrong. It was about proving that God was right to choose you, even when no one else did. They'll be forced to admit what they never had the humility to say, that they misjudged you, that they misunderstood the silence, that they mocked the very grace that is now undeniable. And that discomfort is the beginning of their own transformation, if they choose it. Because some will watch you rise and soften, others will watch and harden. But your assignment isn't to carry their reactions. Your only job now is to stay aligned, stay available, and stay anointed. The rest is God's business. And trust me, He knows exactly how to make a table in the presence of those who once questioned your seat. Your breakthrough will not just elevate you, it will also expose the systems that tried to contain you. Spiritual, emotional, and even relational structures that operated through manipulation, jealousy, and fear will start to crumble the moment your light fully activates. You were never meant to fit in places built to keep you small. And now that the divine clock has struck, those places will begin to reject you simply because they can no longer hold what God placed inside you. That rejection is not punishment, it's redirection. And it's necessary, because what's coming next can only grow in soil that honors what you carry. No more watering dead ground. No more explaining your value to people who benefited from your silence. This next level isn't just about being blessed, it's about being entrusted. God doesn't elevate to impress people. He elevates to expand His kingdom through living vessels. That's why your process was so painful. That's why it took longer than others. That's why the attacks came in waves, and the loneliness felt unbearable at times. Because what's being poured into your hands now requires integrity, discernment, and maturity. It requires that you no longer need applause to feel worthy, or permission to move in your calling. The breakthrough is the announcement, yes, but you are the message. And the weight of that is sacred. You're not rising to prove anything. You're rising because the assignment demands it. For years, your soul has been carrying a sound the earth desperately needs. A frequency that activates healing, truth, and awakening. And now, the environment is finally ready to receive it. That's why doors are opening suddenly. That's why opportunities feel aligned, not forced. The resistance is decreasing, not because the enemy gave up, but because your authority has been recognized. In the unseen realm, there are ranks, and your obedience has moved you to a higher one. That's why the spiritual temperature changed around you. You've shifted dimensions, and this is where you begin to feel it in your body, not just your spirit. Peace becomes natural. Clarity comes without effort. Confusion lifts before it takes root. You begin to discern things before they happen, not through fear, but through alignment. Your presence starts to alter spaces, not because of ego, but because of essence. People begin to respond to you differently, even if they don't understand why. Some will be drawn in, others will be triggered. That's not your burden to carry. It's just a sign that what you carry is real, and real always reveals what's been hiding. This is also when your heart starts to expand again. After being guarded for so long, after holding pain, betrayal, and disappointment so close, it begins to soften, not out of naivety, but out of restoration. You realize that the pain didn't kill you, it rebirthed you. You start to feel compassion again, not just for others, but for your younger self, for the version of you who didn't know how strong they really were. That tenderness becomes your power now, because when you rise with both scars and softness, you're unstoppable. You begin to understand why you had to go through what you did, because now you carry wisdom that can't be bought, discernment that can't be taught, and presence that can't be duplicated. That's what the process gave you. That's what makes you dangerous to the enemy now, because you're not just informed, you're transformed. You no longer walk like someone looking for approval. You walk like someone sent, and every room you enter from here on carries divine purpose. You're no longer trying to be accepted. You're reclaiming what was already yours. You've become the thing they tried to convince you you'd never be. Healed, whole, free, not perfect, but aligned. Not loud, but powerful. Not desperate, but discerning. And that alone will be unsettling to those who only knew you in your brokenness. But that's not your problem to solve. Your responsibility now is to remain in alignment, to honor your process, protect your peace, and move when heaven says, move. You didn't just survive, you evolved, and the world is about to see what becomes of someone who never gave up on the promise. There is a weight that lifts when you finally realize you don't have to fight to be seen anymore. Not by people, not by systems, not even by the version of you that once demanded external proof to feel worthy. The fight to be understood, validated, chosen, it's over. Because when God decides to break you through, no one has the power to overlook what heaven is highlighting. You are no longer the underdog. You are no longer the hidden one in the background. You are the vessel that went through the fire and came out carrying something eternal. And from this point on, every room that receives you will have to do so on God's terms, not their preferences. Your name is now associated with divine timing, and what carries divine timing cannot be delayed again. You're being restored in places you didn't even realize were broken, places you covered up with strength, places you buried with service, parts of you that were tired of believing because hope hurt too much. But now, that buried part of your soul is breathing again. The joy is coming back. The vision is clearing. You're no longer dragging yourself through the day. You're rising with clarity, with rhythm, with authority. Because when you've seen what God can do in the dark, you begin to walk differently in the light. Not arrogantly, not performatively, but with peace that cannot be shaken. Because it wasn't built on outcomes, but on encounters. Your gifts are resurfacing, and this time they're no longer tied to fear of rejection. You're not hiding your light to make others feel safe. You're not downplaying your anointing to fit into rooms that once felt familiar. What's happening now is full embodiment, full expression, and full responsibility. You're carrying what you once prayed for. But more than that, you've become the person who can handle it. That's what makes this breakthrough permanent. It's not just an opportunity, it's a new operating system. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. One you don't have to fight to maintain, because it was never based on effort. It was born from surrender. There's a holy confidence growing in you now, a sacred boldness that doesn't need to shout. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer explain, you exemplify. And your silence now carries more impact than your old voice ever did. People will try to figure out what changed, but they won't be able to trace it. Because this kind of growth doesn't happen on stages. It happens in secret groanings, in broken prayers, in sleepless nights, where only God heard the sound of your heart cracking open. You were reborn in those hidden places. And now, that rebirth is starting to radiate through everything you touch. They'll notice, even if they can't name it. This restoration is not about getting back what was lost, it's about receiving what was reserved. There are things you cried for years ago that didn't arrive, not because you weren't worthy, but because you weren't ready. But you're ready now. Your hands are clean. Your heart is aligned. Your motives are purified. And that's why the very things that once felt out of reach are now finding their way to you naturally. You don't have to force anything in this season. What's aligned will stay. What's meant will flourish. What's true will last. And the rest will fall away without resistance. That's the divine order of breakthrough. God is restoring your confidence. Not the surface kind, but the deep-rooted kind. The kind that lets you sit in silence without shrinking. That lets you walk away without guilt. That lets you hold space without performing. This isn't you being distant. It's you being distilled. You've been refined so many times that what remains is pure, potent, and powerful. You're no longer reacting. You're responding. No longer surviving. You're leading. And the world around you is beginning to feel that shift. You don't have to announce it. You just have to keep walking in it. The atmosphere will do the rest. This is where you start to feel safe within yourself again. No more questioning your intuition. No more overthinking your every step. You're finally at peace with how God made you. Sensitive, strong, discerning, deep. And you now realize that these weren't flaws. They were your signature. They were your design, and the more you lean into them, the more heaven flows through you. You weren't created to be palatable. You were created to be prophetic. And now that you've embraced that truth, your life will begin to align with that higher identity in ways that even you didn't expect. You've crossed a line in the spirit, and there's no going back. You've seen too much, grown too much, and endured too much to return to who you were. This is the beginning of your public becoming, the part where the world starts to witness what only heaven and your scars knew was possible. You are no longer being hidden, you are being revealed. And even those who tried to deny your worth will feel the vibration of your emergence. The breakthrough will not ask for permission. It will arrive, full, holy, and undeniable. And when it does, even your enemies will have to say, "That had to be God." You didn't rush this process. You honored it. You stayed when others left. You chose stillness when noise felt easier. You chose healing when hiding would have been more comfortable. And now, God is choosing you to represent a generation that refused to settle. You're not just stepping into promise. You're stepping into evidence. Evidence that heaven keeps its word, that obedience still matters, that faith still activates miracles. This is what divine breakthrough looks like. Not loud, not performative, but transformative. And its impact reaches far beyond you. So let this be your confirmation. The season of delay is over. The chains that held you in the background are broken. You're walking into rooms designed for your voice. You're standing in places built for your feet. And you're doing it all with the clarity of someone who's been through the fire and came out refined, not ruined. You don't need revenge. You don't need explanation. You only need alignment, because in alignment, everything finds you. The right people, the right opportunities, the right moments. This isn't coincidence. This is the reward of endurance. If this word pierced your spirit, write in the comments, "I was made for this breakthrough." Let it be your declaration to heaven and to yourself. And if this message found you at the perfect time, let it find someone else too. And please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you never miss what God is unfolding here. There's more ahead, and your presence here is part of something much greater than you think. Your journey is sacred, and it's only just beginning. I also want to thank from my heart everyone who supports us on Buy Me a Coffee. Your generosity helps us create deeper, better, and more transformative content every single week. If you'd like to support this mission too, the link is pinned in the first comment below. And don't leave yet. Watch the video on screen or dive into our full playlist. Let your soul be fed. Let your spirit be sharpened. And remember, when God decides it's your time, no one can ignore what heaven has set in motion.